The revenue that you make in your business is going to be directly correlated to your ability to project manage. If you do not set this up correctly, you're going to lose clients, you're going to lose team members, and you're going to lose a lot of revenue. In this video, I'm going to give you the secret to how Amazon runs their project management and how I've been able to help over 800 businesses set up project management better so they can make millions. If you don't know me, my name is Jordan Ross. I run 8-Figure Agency. We're a growth consultancy that's worked with over 800 businesses. We've helped our clients at over 150 million in annual recurring revenue. And before I ran this company, I worked at Amazon for 4 years. I ran fulfillment operations, managing over 2,500 employees. My peak, I was overseeing a business that had over 800 employees beneath me in my organization. And this is the Amazon way. This is one of the biggest components to my success so far, and what's allowed me to be able to go into hundreds of businesses and help them set up their business correctly. So let's dive in. When it comes to running any operation or any project management process, effectively, it always starts with the workflow. As you can see with this picture on the screen, the workflow is a simple flow chart or a step-by-step breakdown of each step within a process. It defines what comes first, what comes second, what comes third, all the way until the last step. It shows who does what the owner is, how long steps should take, what software is available for that process. Is it internal or external communication? The workflow is where everything is defined. In order to do this effectively, so you can start project management well, you just need to take out your pen and paper, define a process, which for you, if we're going to throw out a random example, it could be copywriting for blogs or how to make a blog, right? The first step all the way to the last step of the process. Now, this is something I've referred to in my prior videos, so go check out one of my prior videos on how you can do this effectively. Now, once you have this, you need to templatize this workflow and put it into a project management software. Now, the goal here is that way every time you bring on a new client, this template that you made in your workflow is able to be copy and pasted in your project management. Within project management, there's two primary methodologies that my agencies and my clients use. There's Gantt charts and there's waterfalls. Now, Gantt charts are bar charts that illustrate on a visual manner each step, when it's supposed to be done, and what comes next, and how long it should take. It's a really easy visual to understand project management. And for my companies that have projects that are taking more than a few weeks, I think it's a really great process to use within project management. The second one is Waterfall. Waterfall is really simple. It's when in project management, each step leads into the next one. Now, you're typically not going to see in a Waterfall project management system multiple steps leading into the next one and happening concurrently. That's when you see Gantt charts. Gantt charts allow for complexity to exist. So my recommendation is that you pick between Waterfall if you have a really simple step-by-step process where one step leads to the next, or if you have a more complex operation, use Gantt charts, which pretty much every software now allows for Gantt charts to be used. Once you templatize your process where every step is defined, it's defined on how long they should take and who owns each step, and you put it into a Gantt chart or into a Waterfall project management system, you need to then move your team into this process. My recommendation is to not sprint into this because most people mess it up. So my recommendation is train 1 to 2 team members on how to do this. Now, you could train team members yourself. You could bring in a consultant or a company to train 2 team members on how to do this. You could put your 2 team members into another training program. It does not matter how you do it. They just need to know how to do this. And here's why. If you're going to be rolling out a new methodology to your whole organization, you need people internally to champion that process. When you roll it out, my recommendation is that you start doing cohorts of training depending on the size of your company. Start having team trainings of 5 to 10 people, run through the new process, run how it's going to roll out, and then roll it out gradually. If you have 10, 15, 20 accounts, don't start with all of your accounts on this new process on a Monday. Start with 1 account, then 5 accounts, then 10 accounts, then 20 accounts. Roll it out gradually. And this is what we used to do at Amazon with new softwares. Instead of rolling it out to the whole warehouse, we roll it out gradually to make sure everyone was trained and everyone was able to execute at a level that mitigated issues. Once you roll out the new style of project management, right? It's templatized, it's in a project management software, it's Gantt chart, or it's Waterfall. You got to understand that most people will not actually follow this. So what I always bring into each company I run is an auditor. Within my portfolio, I recently onboarded a new media buying agency, and their project management was pretty poor. So we moved the whole organization into a ClickUp project management software, and I told the founder that not everyone is going to follow it. So we brought on an auditor to make sure that everyone follows it. Now, the purpose of this auditor is to make sure that people aren't communicating in threads in ClickUp, that people are marking things as complete, that people are staying on top of their tasks, and that they're following the process. We hired this person from Upwork, so if you need help hiring someone from Upwork, you could go to one of my prior Upwork videos on how to do that, and you can find the link to that in the description. Once you have this auditor set up, this person is really just there to be your eyes and ears as a manager, as an executive, or as a founder. And when people stop following the process, and in the example of the company that I brought into my portfolio, the team, before we moved into ClickUp, was using Slack to communicate on projects. Instead of assigning tasks in ClickUp, and instead of communicating in threads on ClickUp, they were doing all of that within Slack. This person was simply commenting and asking them to move their communications into ClickUp. As you can see here, this is a quick example of one of the messages this auditor sent to the team members just to get them back in line. Once we've moved over, we have the auditor. The next step is to make sure there's consistent visibility. At Amazon, we had daily and weekly standard work checklists and reports that allowed managers and executives to make sure they can see what's going on in their operation on a day-to-day basis. In the past, I've received skepticism around additional checklists and additional work for employees to do, but the blunt truth of the matter is if you do not have checks and balances in your operation and you don't have mechanisms to easily hold people accountable and to make things visible, people will mess up. It's not an if, it's a when. So you really got to do this. At Amazon, on a daily basis, we would have recurring tasks that were in our checklist. These tasks would be compounded from individuals into team members into departments, and you would have to submit in some form of end-of-day report what your tasks were. As you can see on the screen, here are a few examples of some checklists that my team and other companies that I've worked with have used. You can see these checklists can include standard tasks that repeat daily. They can include data from specific clients on a day-to-day basis. They could also include data from team members that might be in sales or marketing to see what's actually happening. The most important thing is that you know if your team is executing and you have visibility into the data on a daily basis. In your standard work checklist and in your end-of-day report, the most important thing is calling out misses. Now, in every standard work checklist or every end-of-day report, if there is a miss, and let's just say a cold caller had to book 10 calls and they only booked 8 or 5 or something that's less. The cold caller in their end of day report would have to do what's called a bridge. They would have to explain why they fell short and what they're going to do differently tomorrow to get back to standard. Now, this is the most important part of the checklist because not only are you being held accountable because you could easily be called out for your miss, but you have to start to think autonomously. This one thing is one of the best systems in any business because your team members will have to start to think on their own. They'll have to think for themselves as to why they fell short and why they missed and how they could get better. Now, this might seem so simple, and I promise you, the amount of businesses I find where people actually don't think on their own and they just act like robots or they rely on other people to tell them what to do is nonsensical. So this one thing for your company is going to make your people take a little bit more ownership and think on their own. Now, if you're trying to do this, there's 3 things that you need to map out to create your checklist. The first thing is what are the daily and weekly tasks that repeat for each team member that you need to see is getting done. The second thing, what are the daily, weekly, and monthly goals and KPIs that you need to have visibility into to know if someone's executing? And the third thing, what are the daily and weekly inputs that you have to track to make sure people are on track to hit their goals on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis? Put these into your checklist, roll these checklists out to your team members, make sure that you tell them starting on a specific day that they will have to submit these checklists daily, and then have your auditor that you already have hired and you set up in the last step, audit to make sure everyone is submitting. And if they don't submit, they ping each team member, reminding them that they have to submit their checklist, and the auditor should ping you, the founder, the executive, the manager, to let you know which team members did not submit at the end of the day. There should be a super simple strike system. If someone doesn't submit it 3 times, they're out, right? It doesn't have to be that harsh, but there should be some form of repercussion if someone is not actually submitting these. What's critical is that your team members actually know that you are watching and seeing these end-of-day reports. You can see here on the screen, there are 2 different styles of communication I have. One is positive reinforcement. I saw one of my consultants, whose name in this example is Jerry. He did something awesome, and I just gave him a shout out. Just the shout out reinforces positive behavior and also shows them that, hey, I'm watching and this is great. Keep the good work up. But you could also see here in the second picture that I had a team member that didn't submit their end-of-day report. So what I did was I just messaged him, hey bro, notice you stopped sending this. Would you mind continuing to get this back up and running? Because it helps us keep visibility. Now, the auditor actually told me that someone hadn't submitted their end of day report. I pinged that person to hold them accountable. So that's how the auditor and my messages hold people accountable, because it just gets someone back on track. And the glue that holds this all together is the operations meeting. Now, the operations meeting is a really critical component because it is an in-person mechanism to hold people accountable, have candid conversations, and really continually to establish and reinforce the culture of high performance. Now, these meetings can vary in terms of length. They could run 10 minutes all the way up to 1 hour, but I recommend brevity for the sake of convenience and for speed. Now, here's the exact order in which we do this meeting. Number one, the first thing in this meeting is an announcement. So the manager or leader of this meeting will start the meeting with any important updates and announcements that the team needs to know. If there are data components, wins, or lessons or shoutouts they want to make, this is where they should start. This part of the meeting could take anywhere from 1 minute to 5 minutes. Once that is done, the leader will either pull up a dashboard or there will already be a dashboard pulled up, either physically or virtually, that shows all the active accounts or projects your business is working on. From there, we're going to go in a waterfall format where each account manager or project leader is going to go through their accounts or their projects and give an update. Now, the updates are really simple, and each update per account should not take more than 1 minute, but some updates don't even have to take more than a couple seconds. First and foremost, each account manager wants to highlight the accounts that are underperforming. If accounts are moving well, they're going to briefly acknowledge which accounts are performing well, which accounts are hitting goals and benchmarks, and then they're going to go over the accounts that are not. When these team members get to those accounts, we want to go in depth. We want to share what the benchmark target is versus what they're actually doing. Now, if we're running an advertising campaign on TikTok and the goal of cost per conversion is 50 cents a conversion and our cost per conversion is $1, we will state that we have a 50 cents discrepancy in cost per conversion, and they're going to start to explain why. Now, each team member in this format is required to know their data, know their information, and know the root cause as to why they're underperforming, and they present all of that. They share what they did wrong, what they could have improved, what their lessons are, what they're going to do differently, and what their specific plan is moving forward. They also share lessons learned with the team for other team members to learn from their own mistakes or learn from their wins. They go through all their accounts, and then in addition to this, if there are prior updates that they need to address, things that they had in the past where they were underperforming, they want to acknowledge if they are on track or if they are still off track. This is the format of the meeting. In this style, this requires team members to come prepared. It creates more accountability. And as managers, instead of us running the meeting, we are now developing talent on their thesis, on their plans. To be super specific, if a team member is proposing a way to fix a cost per conversion issue and you don't love their ideas or you think they're not presenting the best path forward, you can start to jump into coaching. You could start to ask questions as what led them to those conclusions, as to what their thought process was. And then you could give feedback to them and the whole team on a great thought process on how you want to run your operation and how you want to train your team on how you want them to think. You do this for the full team. Now, in general, no team member, if they're running an account as an account manager, should have anywhere north of 20 to 30 accounts max. So in theory, we want to give each team member the ability to have about 30 seconds to 1 minute per account that they actually run. The focus here is that we want to emphasize speed. We don't want to harp on what we're doing well. We want to focus on what we're able to improve. Now, once you have the format set up, you need to make a decision on how often you want to run these meetings. At Amazon, we would run 5 meetings a day. We'd run a pre-shift, a quarter 1 meeting, a quarter 2 meeting, a quarter 3 meeting, and then an end of day. That's 5 meetings within a day. Now, Amazon is doing millions in volume on a daily and weekly basis per each fulfillment center. In your business, you need to decide on the speed of feedback that's required and the speed of visibility. If you're running an advertising agency, you're going to need more meetings. If you're running an SEO agency, you're going to need less meetings. So deciding the frequency, whether it's daily, multiple times a week, or 1 time per week, is up to you. From a high level, this covers everything. And I know this can seem simple, but putting all these parts together can be overwhelming and can really scare some people. So if you're struggling with this and you need assistance, go to the link below and book a call with myself or my team. We're going to give you a consultation to help you grow your business and run your project management. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.